Some Broadway shows are, of course, more successful than others. But in 1984, the musical Merrily We Roll Along, written by Stephen Sondheim, opened and closed in just 14 days. One of the stars of the show, Suncoast resident Ann Morrison, is now featured in a documentary about the infamous Broadway flop. All right, so welcome, Annie. And listen, we were saying flop, but when we talk about, you know, something can be a commercial success or an audience success. How do you feel about us using the word flop?
It's like relative, huh?
It didn't do well. Some people call it the ill-fated musical, but it's an interesting piece of history. It's an interesting piece of musical theater history. And it was a show that Stephen Sondheim and Hal Prince, who were the kings of Broadway, everybody was sure it was going to be this huge success. We did. Although, to be honest with you, Jason Alexander made his Broadway debut with me in this show. And I don't know if you know who he is, but he, I remember sitting at the first, there he is, the first reading of Merrily with the whole cast, and there was ABC News in New York was there, interesting, to film it. And I remember Jason turning to me and saying, "I think we're in trouble." And I said, "Jason, you know, these are the gods of Broadway. They'll fix it. It'll be fine." So it was a musical that had this great idea. Judy Prince, Hal Prince's wife, thought, wouldn't it be great if we could do a show about young people? Not about young people, but young people doing something, doing a piece of theater. Because they would go to see their daughter in high school productions and say, there's something fun about that raw, exciting energy. But so when they cast most of the people rather young, they discovered that their leads weren't up to par to what they needed. I was the last cast in the musical. And as we had started, Jason Alexander came on board, Lonnie Price, Jim Walton, who was a hoofer already in New York. We stood out quite a bit. There was a time where Lonnie and I were going to be fired because we were too professional. Oh, wow. And then they realized, no, we need to get rid of someone else in the cast and bump this up a little bit.
It's good.
Annie, some shows flop and people never talk about them again because the audiences didn't connect, but that's not the case with this show. And now this documentary.
Oh, my God. Well, and it has so many revisions. I mean, George Firth and Stephen Sondheim got right away trying to figure out what was the problem, trying to fix it. I and a lot of cast members feel like it's just changes. I don't think it really addresses. Once they got away from the friendship of the three, Charlie Kringus, Mary Flynn, and Franklin Shepard, then you get lost track of it. It's not really, to me, it's not really about selling out, which a lot of people thought it was, and maybe that was, by the way, it was 1981.
Speaking of selling out, though, let's talk about what is selling out, which are tickets to the documentary.
Selling out,
Talk to us about what the documentary explores.
Well, the documentary, it was 8 years in the making. Lonnie Price, who was Charlie Kringus, had directed it, and trying to find the angle. He wanted to focus on the original cast and figure out what happened. We were going to call it growing up at one point, and to see what happened to all of us later on in life. And then he found the lost footage that ABC originally was doing, interestingly enough. There was a conflict of interest, so they shelved that footage. And most of it was before I was even cast. So I'm not in the documentary as much as I was before because he got so focused on that. I came in much later. And so once he got that focus, the film became a little more on Lonnie Price's life on it. And we saw a lot of people believing, and unfortunately a lot of good storytelling about the process of the play itself. For instance, I wish they'd spent more time when we went into previews, because we were supposed to go into previews for 2 weeks and then open. We extended to 8-week preview and then a 2-week open.
I remember that.
Flipped around a little bit. Yeah, but that was when Sondheim and Hal Prince had his best.
Oh, nice.
Because he tweaks, he looks, he understands what the audience is doing, and it just got better and better and better. And the word of mouth in New York was so bad, because we didn't preview out of town like we should have. We previewed in town, that we just never could get past that. I think if we had a chance to have a better word of mouth, we could have lipped along a little bit farther.
Well, the word of mouth about the documentary is that it's fantastic. Interesting to study the making of a Broadway musical. If you would like to catch the documentary, it will be this weekend at the Sarasota Film Festival special showing at the Hollywood
Right.
20, January 7th, 6:30 p.m. The proceeds will go to Annie's pet project, the Sarah Solo Festival.
Celebrating solo
Yes,
artists.
and Sarasota Film Festival as well. So it's a great opportunity to catch a great movie for two great causes. For more info about the screening, visit sarasotafilmfestival.com. Next, coming up, we have a look at what's happening at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. We'll be right back.
Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, they